Hi, I'm Nikhil and this is Zero Latitude. Today we'll cover some satellites, data centers, and defense funding, and the cap table behind it all. Let's get into it. So, Project Kuiper of Amazon just signed a deal with JetBlue Airlines. They've already tested their ground facilities and they're getting 1 Gbps internet speed. So, in 2027, JetBlue is going to be providing their Wi-Fi service on flight through Project Kuiper. Currently, they are using geostationary satellites for that, but Project Kuiper satellites are in low Earth orbit, which are very good for low latency. While Project Kuiper is trying to catch up with Starlink, Starlink is coming directly to your phone. So SpaceX, which operates Starlink, just bought a 50 megahertz exclusive S-band spectrum from EcoStar, which is for direct to cell service they want to provide. They've already tested texting, calling, and internet access direct to cell from their satellites last year. And their second gen Starlink satellites have this capability. All the next satellites are going to have this capability as well. All these capabilities would not need any new phone. So they're going to be compatible with the already available cell phones with LTE capabilities. Now, whether it's satellite or AI or servers, infrastructure matters. So that's why OpenAI is planning a 1 gigawatt data center in India. We're not yet clear on Indian partners. That should be clear during Sam Altman's visit to India this month. As India is the second largest user base of ChatGPT already, this makes sense. And Google has already moved faster than OpenAI in this, and they've partnered with Reliance to build a 3 gigawatt data center in Gujarat. So this makes sense that OpenAI is trying to catch up. India being the largest user base of any US tech company, they don't want to left behind. So while OpenAI looks at India for data centers, Indian defense startups have raised fresh capital. Indrajal raised 48 crore rupees or about 5.5 million US dollars in pre-series A, which was co-led by India Accelerator and Finvolve, along with participation from existing investors. They're developing anti-drone systems for critical infrastructures like refineries, stations, Air Force stations, Army stations, airports, etc. UAV development startup Endure Air also raised 25 crore Indian rupees or about 2.8 million US dollars from EN Alpha Fund with participation from EN or IAN Angel Fund. San Lion, which is a defense electronics startup, raised 186 crore rupees or about 22 million US dollars in Series A, led by Jungle Ventures with participation from Ashish Kacholia, Lashit Sanghvi, RBA Finance, Gemba Capital, Singularity Capital, and others. So that's the funding side. The bigger question is dilution. What the founders are left with after these rounds are over. Large dilution in founder equity and funds controlling the majority stake and decision making is not ideal. This happens in India because of three reasons. India's venture scene is still nascent. Most VCs are very risk averse and they want as much control as possible early on. Also, Indian startups have very low valuation as compared to their counterparts of US or Europe, which obviously leads to less capital for the same amount of equity. And third, deep tech startups like space or defense, especially those, are very capex heavy. They need money for research and development, they need so much money for prototyping and crazy amount of expenditure for scaling the capabilities. So it makes sense that they'll have to give up equity to raise funds. But the problem is losing control. If one or two funds want to control majority stake and also majority control, that will make founders lose motivation or any incentive to stay. And nobody wants a manager operator in early stage startups. That's going to be basically the death of that startup. In other words, the health of India's deep tech startup ecosystem is not going to be judged by how much money they've raised, but by who's actually in control of these companies. Because if founders leave, they're dead basically. There is no way VC controlled startups, especially early stage startups, can survive. That's all for this week in Zero Latitude. I'll be back with more next week. Thank you.